You're welcome back. So, brilliant weekend, I think it's fair to say, for the Irish provinces in the first round of the Heineken Champions Cup. We just mentioned that Munster result yesterday, 35-14 winners in Wasps. Connacht beat Stade Francais at home 36-9. Ulster went to France and beat Clermont 29-23. And then Leinster hammered Bath at home 45-20. Delighted to welcome Ronan O'Gara to the show. Ronan, good morning to you.
Hi Owen, how's it going?
We might start with your own game actually from yesterday. You beat Glasgow 20 points to 13. How satisfied were you with the performance overall?
Performance average, result hugely important just to get up and running in Europe. A lot of pressure, I suppose, being at home in your first game, and the fact that you want to get off to a good start. And we understand they're trying to spread the message, you know what I mean, that the Irish, the Welsh and the Scottish teams, this is what they play for. This is their big moment in their season, 4 games now in the reduced form of the new competition. So it was probably, we were very average for 30 minutes, then we probably got up to the speed of the game. They were very good around the ruck. We probably didn't understand how good probably Glasgow would be with keeping the ball. So it took us a bit of time to adjust, but we knuckled down, rolled up the sleeves a little bit and got into our groove and left a few tries out there. But it was a good game, a good cup game.
Yeah, your second try, essentially the winning score of the game, was this incredible chaotic piece of play, if that's fair to say, Ronan, where you kept the ball alive, and maybe it's not something that you'd exactly planned out in the training ground, but the players had the wherewithal to create the opportunity and salvage the opportunity and get that all-important try.
Yeah, exactly. I think people are fascinated with playbooks and structure nowadays, but usually what happens is that someone trusts their instinct and they have a go. It was a bizarre, as you say, period of play where I think it was an intentional knock on and everyone stopped, but Brice Doolan just kept playing and he played the ball out of the tackle and managed to get over in the corner. Yeah, we had some good moments, but it was interesting just to see when you're kind of going week to week in the top 14, and then there was definitely a change in speed yesterday. And I think probably the big change from when I used to play to nowadays is that even in winter we have a hybrid pitch, and it's a fast pitch. It's a great pitch for playing. You can still play, as opposed to probably the slogs I had in Thomond Park against Wasps, I think in December and January, where it's very soft underfoot nowadays. People are able to put on footwork in December and January and have great capacity to show their skills. So it was pleasing. It was a very pleasing result, but an average performance. But it's all about getting momentum in this competition.
You mentioned...
Ronan, are they the Santa colours or the Munster colours you're wearing in the corner?
I got a new stash delivered from Adidas, so I'm kind of I've plenty to choose from at the minute. I think you're sick of the kind of green and white ones and black ones I've been wearing. What was the other option? Santa colours, is it?
Yeah, just making sure that because
I did. I changed up the background too. I gave you a little bit of a nice, maybe that's better angle there.
Yeah.
Somebody on YouTube wondering if instead of an angel or a star at the top of the tree, you've got a Paul O'Connell figurine.
No, stop. I was listening to your chat before I came on air, so you're very good at stirring it up. I know that. So yeah, it's a nice colour on me. I'll give you that.
That's as far as we get. We should talk about that though, because all joking aside, I think that's to get your academy players to be able to mesh with the senior team is huge. It's very difficult because you never know how they're going to perform. And notwithstanding the fact that Wasps didn't have their strongest team out because of injury and COVID and suspension, whatever, it doesn't really matter, does it? Like, the most important thing is, and I know you haven't had a chance to look properly at the video yet, but it's an incredible achievement.
Yeah, and I think you could discuss this for a long number of hours, because I saw the highlights reel. I think it was 3.5 minutes, but in that there were so many revealing moments. I think, as you say, I don't have the pronunciation of the new number 8 for Munster, but he just looked like he played without fear. The hooker Buckley was excellent. The 15 who got the try, the acceleration he showed. It was. I agree with kind of what you said. I think it will serve Munster very well, but it also pose a lot of questions in terms of how you can empower players in the right environment. And I suppose if I want to try and make the point I'm making, I think we as probably coaches or people involved in the game have so much responsibility in shaping the younger players and empowering them about how they go about their work. I think you look at what happened in South Africa in the summer, which a statistic that I don't think will ever leave me is I think Dan Biggar passed the ball 3 times as the number 10. So in terms of if that is your basis for tactical performance, major questions can and should be asked about what game you're trying to play. The other side of that would be too that I suppose a lot of the times in Munster's performances you've seen wingers backs chasing box kicks. I think what we've seen from yesterday and throughout the last 4 months and with Ireland too, there's probably a shift away from that, and people are expressing themselves more and seem to be playing the game with a bigger smile on their face and more spatially aware and more aware of. Yeah, game management will always be crucial, but game management can be run or it can be kick. It doesn't necessarily have to be kick. And you could just see boys playing freely in a red jersey yesterday because they don't have any of this pressure. They don't have any, I suppose, pre-bias inside them. So it was fascinating to show the strength and depth in Munster rugby. Yeah, Leinster Academy is a conveyor belt of brilliant talent, and it goes so deep. But you'd like to think that the other provinces had that, but what actually happens after that is how you're setting up your young players to play and to succeed, and they need to be I suppose filled with positivity to be able to express themselves.
A lot of credit has to go to Ian Costello for his role in this. I don't know anything about his past career, obviously, apart from the fact that he's come back from England. What kind of a character is he, and where did his rugby philosophy come from? Because the imprint seems to be from the kids anyway, that they are playing that type of rugby that you're talking about, which is ambitious and is, technically fluent.
Yeah, Cosy was involved with UL Bows, and he's deeply ingrained in Munster rugby, and he was coaching in the Axel coaching group, so he's had previous experience. He used to be the defence coach before Jacques Niembar, I think. So he's fully aware of what's involved in coaching at the highest level, and obviously he's come back from Wasp to take up the role. So he was the defence coach with Wasp too, so he's probably done plenty of years in the coaching grind, but now he's gone back to probably something that I think he probably loves, and that's the academy level and setting them up to have big careers with the professional team. So I think there's probably I think there's a lot of guys obviously in the shadow around the fringes of Munster that probably don't get a lot of credit, and I think the strength of Munster, I think, always was the strength of their AIL and the connection with the AIL teams and the Munster professional team. And I think that would be one area, because I'm way out of the loop, so I can't comment accurately on it. But that's something that I think that was always very important to the mentality of Munster players.
Well, what's interesting as well, Ronan, when you mentioned some of the players that stood out to you yesterday, Daniel Okeke, to me anyway, when I go through the 12 players, the debutants, I'm pretty sure he's the only one from Limerick who came through, he came through from Ardscoil Reach. There's a huge Cork tint, obviously, to Cork or to Munster over the last little while. 3 lads from Ennis yesterday, a fella from Waterford. There's a spread throughout the province. Again, maybe you've been out of the loop for the last little while, but did you get that sense before you left that maybe Munster rugby had started to get into various areas that perhaps they hadn't really been touching in the previous couple of decades?
No, I don't think so. It's always been there, Owen.
Right.
It's always been there. I really believe that. It's always been there. I just think it needs to be like you know yourself, without silverware, without parading a cup, it's very difficult to sell the dream in that regard, because Limerick hurling and hurling is so strong, and obviously Gaelic football in Cork and Kerry as well, and Tipperary are getting good at football as well. So you know the GA is so strong in there, and the structures there for underage kids. There seems to be huge, probably battle in that regard, but there'll always be room for two in Limerick, especially with hurling in the summer and rugby in the winter, and that should never change. So I think that the talent is most definitely there, but it takes probably sometimes perception isn't reality, and when you're not winning cups, a lot of it is seen as a negative, but it just takes one kind of tipping point for things to be seen in a better light.
Like they're clearly winning the battle in some regard in Cork, if they manage to persuade Patrick Campbell to come over from the dark side and leave Gaelic football behind, and scored an unbelievable try yesterday, obviously a minor winner with Cork. But like, does that come down to PBC being in a school where rugby is hugely valued? Is that part of the battle in terms of winning the hearts and minds of some of these youngsters?
I think it comes down to the individual as well. You know, I think there's you know what I mean, when you're watching those All-Ireland games with Limerick playing, like the thought goes through your head, imagine that guy in a red jersey, he'd be good, you know. But I think that's always there, the dilemma with young kids, but play whatever they want to play, you know. I think that's the most important thing, and give them a sport that they're able to express themselves in. There's plenty of room for them to do it, but I just think that where Munster can kick on now is the fact that if I read it correctly, it was 34 players missing yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's the figure.
You know, like that, it's unbelievable to think that's the case. And well, these guys now have completely, as I think George said, they've upped the ante big time, because like they'll be kind of going into the review today, kind of going, well, I hope I'm involved next week, and they have every good reason to think they should be involved next week. So all of a sudden now you're trying to pick two training teams to go at each other in training, but if you have 34 missing and you're 23 and thing, that means you've close to 60 players. And for me, I obviously didn't see the game, but I saw highlights of the game. But you look at that try from the young 15,
Campbell, Patrick Campbell.
Brilliant acceleration in his line, but it looked like, I belong here. This is what I play. And that pitch in Coventry is a great pitch. I remember playing there. It's a fast surface, and you could see that they were really enjoying themselves and expressing themselves. So now, you know what I mean, it's back with with the difficulty of who do you pick the next day.
For sure. The other element then, Ronan, just to wrap up on Munster, is the fact that there was obviously an experienced cohort of players there who no doubt had a massive influence throughout the week, and I guess the epitome of it was Peter O'Mahony's try-saving tackle in the first half. He's having an unbelievable year, Ronan. Like he's really kicked on in a way that maybe people didn't expect, or maybe people didn't see coming over the last little while. He's been an absolute leader for Munster and for Ireland over the past few months.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say you wouldn't expect it. I think you would expect it if you know the guy. I think you would. I think he's probably had a good look at himself, and I think he's understood where he is. And I'd say he doesn't want to finish his career in Munster without silverware, and he has every reason to think like that. So he needs to drive his team to new standards. And as you say, that chase back and that acceleration for his body to be able to do that and not pull a hamstring, and his willingness to do that was absolutely huge. But I think also you forget sometimes what new blood does to a group, what new energy does. Experienced players get revitalised, they get energised, they get a lift from fresh-faced young players coming in to the group, because subconsciously there's a new energy there, there's a new vibe there. Peter is looked upon as a senior player, so he has everything to prove to these young guys, because the reality is that they won't say anything, but in the dressing room they'll be looking around and go, okay, there's Conor Murray, there's Earlsey, there's Dealande, there's Peter O'Mahony. These guys like the Campbells of this world, they'll want to go on and play for 10 years for Munster and do it, but at the start they'll be going, okay, is what I'm reading about these guys true? I want to see this. So Peter and these boys will know that they want to not put on a show for these guys, but they'll want to impress them, and the way they impress them is by their actions, and that was a very impressive cover tackle. I think just the not the effort, but actually I think the kind of the physical attributes to be able to push his body to get there and perfect a brilliant tackle was exemplary. But you could see that the body language of the players in red was very, very positive. They went to play. They didn't go to defend. They went to play, and because they were good with the ball, how many tries and points did they get from putting Wasps under pressure by being just up in their faces and being dogs?
Ron, can you put some context on the other performances for us against the French sides? So Stade Francais came to Connacht and didn't find the pitch to their liking. It worked out pretty well for Connacht with a bonus point victory, and then a brilliant win for a young Ulster side as well, who again have some incredible talent coming through their academy at Clermont. Maybe start with Stade. Stade haven't had a great start to the season so far, but you wouldn't have expected them to get completely beaten out the gate the way they did.
Yeah, that happens. You know, that we played them the week before, and there was a lot of energy went into that game for them. The top 14, they're near the bottom of the table, so that was a huge game for them, and it was a Sunday night, and then they're going to Connacht 6 days later. I think they make 12 changes, and as you know, if you can get on top of a French team and rattle them, there's still it's for us. It's bizarre, I suppose. Anyone who's rare on the Champions Cup, the European Cup. We understand the intricacies of the competition so well, but for the guys in France and even guys in La Rochelle, they kind of still underestimate what it means to the players in the, especially Welsh, English, or Welsh, Scottish and Irish teams, how much this competition means, because that's essentially their championship. So the Ulster, Stade Francais, I probably was a bit surprised, but Connacht are a team that when they can rip you apart because of the brand of rugby they play, and they're very expressive with the ball. So even on a miserable day, I heard in Connacht, they were rampant. I saw the Ulster Clermont game, and Ulster were very, very good. Very good, I thought. Very accurate. Played a lot of tempo, and started the game. Obviously killed Clermont 16-0 up, and they got back into the game. But then, credit to Ulster, they kicked on again, and against a pretty experienced Clermont team. They had the composure to realign themselves and push on for the last 10 minutes, and they won well with a brilliant penalty from Cooney to make it a 9-point game. And before that, Michael Lowry and Hume and McCluskey were excellent, and their pack were very good as well.
From watching them, Ronan, why do you think that there's been a decent element of inconsistency to their season so far? Because when they've been good, they've been great, and yesterday summed that up. But even you listen to McFarland in the aftermath of the game, he's even a little bit paranoid about Northampton next week. He just hopes that they can back this up.
Yeah, well, sure, that's the dilemma one for a lot of coaches. I think sometimes you think you've cracked and you've pushed on to another level, and then disappointingly or pulled back because of for whatever reason, whether it's underperformance with the body or underperformance with the mind. So once you can kind of piece those two bits together on a consistent basis, then you feel like you're making strides, but it's very, very difficult, I think. As you know, when you're dealing with human emotions, to get that pitch right every week, and the opposition are obviously trying to implement their plan in you. It's example in our game yesterday, you could just see that you're trying to stress all week that You mean this is Glasgow's season? This is what they're playing for. They won't lie down. They're going to keep coming at you. But they kind of, after the game, okay, coach, I know what you mean. But I'm kind of like, okay, but how do we understand that before the game the next day?
Yeah. Yeah. Just finally then on Leinster, Ronan, obviously one pulling up on Saturday afternoon. Is there a sense about this Leinster team next year when you look at that pack that maybe they're going to be a bit more robust and might actually get the job done this year? Because it was up front, it was when it came to the power game, as you well know, that's where they were found a little bit vulnerable over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, it's I suppose the first comment that jumped out on me, the Aviva was in incredible condition. It looked like an unbelievable surface to play rugby on. Jos van der Fleer is probably the most improved rugby player in the world. He has a carry threat now that is unbelievably good to him. It's a big probably compliment, but he reminds me a little bit of Richie McCaw now, and he seems to have an all-round game and an engine to go and keep pushing himself. I don't know, he knows where his limit is, and you only have to admire people like that. I was on the tour with Joe Schmidt in the US when I got invited on that tour, and Josh was on that tour, and he was probably only starting off then, I think, but he's a guy who would always stay in my head because such a sponge and such a student of the game and such a student of wanting to get better, and it's great when you see success stories like that. He was fantastic. Frawley in the midfield looks very, very good. But they have incredible players, and they have incredible, I suppose, setup, and they know what they stand for, and they play good rugby with really, really fit players. So, but I don't think that's anything new to anybody.
For sure. Listen, Ronan, you've been great your time this morning. Thanks a million.
See you guys. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Ronan O'Gara there on the line live from France.